clock strikes. Here, it's always Halloween, and I'm always your haunted host, Luce Tomlin Brenner. Happy Newween! Does that sound too gross? What about Hello New Year? It's 2021. Have you made your Halloween resolutions? What are your spooky goals for the new year? I, for one, would like to do a little more cooking, trying out some of those cool haunted recipes that you guys call in about. We actually have a new one to share today. I have a whole Pinterest filled with Halloween-themed recipes, and there just isn't enough time from August to October, which is when I usually relegate Halloween-themed cooking to. So this year I'm thinking maybe try at least one Halloween recipe a month on the, quote-unquote off-season months. Maybe we can have like a fun cooking club as an offshoot to the podcast. Let me know what you think about that. Please write in, call in, let us know what your spooky resolutions are, how you're going to incorporate more Halloween into your daily life this year. You are listening to the Small Frights episode of It's Always Halloween, and this is our listener-generated episodes where I like to share curated calls to the All Hallows Hotline and letters from our EEEEKmail bag. We have a ton to go over today. This is going to be a little bit of a longer episode. To reward your patience, thank you for being so supportive while I took the last month off and just got everything sorted, had some time to relax, put together some new ideas for the podcast, and I am raring to go. So I hope you guys are too. All right, let's get right into it with a letter from Laura with the subject line, Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Luce and fellow hauntlings. That's cute. I want to tell you about some of the traditions surrounding New Year's Eve and New Year's Day that morbidly romantic Victorians partook in. True to form, the upper-class Victorians found it in poor taste to have large gatherings on New Year's Eve. However, they found whatever you were doing while the clock struck 12 to be telling of what the new year had in store for you. So, it was customary to have small engagements where friends and loved ones would gather around the punch bowl and then try to guess each other's fortunes in various ways. According to the 1862 publication, Fontaine's Golden Wheel Fortune Teller and Dream Book by Felix Fontaine, there are 9 different divination methods which he deemed acceptable on New Year's Eve. I was originally going to paraphrase these passages, but the way this guy writes is so entertaining that I decided to link you to the books instead. Okay, so Laura sent some of the pages over, and I'm just going to read one of them out directly here. This fortune is called The Nutshell Witchery. Witchery is a fantastic word. Among the witcheries which you may perform on a New Year's Eve, there is one which I have not eluded. Each person of your company takes a nutshell, and after lighting the wax taper, places it in the nutshell. A hosen of water is then brought. You now place the nutshells with the burning wax tapers in them in the basin. Some will incline towards each other as they float along. Others will repel each other until at last all are extinguished or sunk. What conclusions in reference to the future are to be drawn from the various movements of these tiny magic skiffs? Your own quick wits will tell you. Okay, sir. It seems like you just made up something absolutely bonkers and then said, you decide what it means. That was quite the cop-out. He has this other funny one that says, the nail token If a person has nails that are all bitten to pieces and gnawed close to the quick, it signifies an evil, malicious character, and you have every reason in the world to be on your guard in your intercourse with such a person. In the 1800s, intercourse meaning any type of back and forth you have with someone. Okay, back to Laura's email. Laura writes, on New Year's Day, generally between the hours of 10 a.m. to 9 p.m., wealthy Victorians would hold open houses to invite all the local eligible bachelors into their homes to meet their unmarried daughters. Everyone was in their finest holiday attire, and the bachelors were to leave calling cards. This was essentially door-to-door speed dating, as the gentlemen were to spend no more than 15 minutes at each house chatting with the residents' young woman or women before going on to the next household. The hostesses were expected to have buffets with turkey, chicken, oysters, fruitcake, and sweets, as well as eggnog that was laced with plenty of bourbon, rum, or brandy. Later on, the women would brag to one another about how many calling cards they received and how sumptuous their buffets were. Kind of sounds like a euphemism. As you can guess, this quickly turned into a competitive event to see how many homes could be visited and how much spiked eggnog could be drunk before the end of the day. Because of this behavior, the holiday evolved from an open house to an invitation-only affair. Victorians of the middle class would attend what were known as phantom balls. These were parties which called for ghostly costumes, card games, and even a bit of football for the men. Personally, I'd love to be at one of these phantom balls. Me too, Laura. Other traditions included wearing new clothes to symbolize the beginning of a new phase and the forgetting of past ills. Additionally, people would sound bells at midnight to ward off evil and proclaim the victory of good, flinging the door open to shout, "Welcome, welcome," to the new year, and throwing a cake against the door to assure a year without hunger. What a perfectly good waste of a delicious cake, I say. And Laura, I agree with you. I hope this email finds all of you well, with good health, staying at home, and all the prosperity to afford you with only the finest of libations to spike your eggnog with. Yours truly, Laura B. Laura B., thank you for this incredibly detailed letter, and she also includes pictures of calling cards, which I'll throw up on the Instagram, and plenty of citations to basically everything that she wrote about. So I will put all of those in the show notes so you can click on them and read a little bit more for yourself. That was fascinating and so detailed, and I love how much of Victorian culture was just around fortune telling and romance, and maybe that's, just what has stuck around for us to learn about, but it really makes it seem like all they were doing was like reading wax and nutshells and melted metal and lead to see like, who is my husband gonna be? So many holidays were about who are you gonna marry? So, thank goodness. It sometimes seems like we haven't evolved very far, but I'm happy that most of my holidays are not looking into water and like waxy cups to figure out who I'm gonna marry. Fantastic research, Laura. Thanks so much. Up next, a call from the All Hallows Hotline.
Hey, I love that voicemail box message. That's very spooky and good. I wanted to ask more about trunk-or-treating because I was born in 1995 in Tennessee, and I have been trunk-or-treating, but only with cousins from possibly a more religious background, I guess, who weren't allowed to trick-or-treat, but they were allowed to trunk-or-treat, and I went with them, and I thought it was really lame. It happened in the daytime, and we weren't allowed to dress up as something really scary, and we definitely got candy from people's trunks, but it always seemed to be kind of a church event, and I still see signs now calling it, it's only happening at churches. So I just kind of wondered what more goes on around the world with that, because trunk or treat obviously seems to be something that happens outside of the South. So is it more of a churchy thing, or is it something that people who aren't feeling super safe about trick-or-treating doing? I hope that makes sense. Yeah. So anyways, love the show. Just started recently listening. I've been following you on Twitter for a while, but I just started listening to your podcast when you promoted it. So thank you for doing that, because it's Halloween all year round at my house. Anyways, thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for the call, listener. I'm so happy that you found the podcast and that you're enjoying it. Also delighted to hear that you enjoy the voicemail message. I had a lot of fun writing and recording that one. So, trunk or treat. Wow. Trunk or treat is one of the most controversial things about Halloween, I think. We have talked about it in the past on Small Frights episodes. I have been a long-term anti-trunk or treater until I was actually pushed, I guess I should say, to think about it a little differently from a listener who wrote in to tell us about how the trunk or treat at their apartment complex really helped the kids who lived there and weren't able to go other places, and that they could still interact with all of their neighbors. And I've heard a lot of reports of people who are in more rural areas and have a harder time trick-or-treating. And so trunk or treat is nice for that reason as well. I have not been able to track down the exact origins of trunk or treat, and let me tell you, it is driving me a little crazy. It does seem like it does have a religious background, that it was started by church organizations. However, it seems as though it could have also been started by community organizations, which I don't know if that's a euphemism for church. It's hard to say. It looks as though it was only called trunk or treat in the last 10 years or so, but that organizations were doing basically the same thing. A bunch of people get together in a parking lot and trade candy in the 90s. I think the dominating narrative around it is that it's supposed to be safer than trick-or-treating, which I have challenged on past episodes. And, we've gone over statistics about 4th of July and New Year's being statistically much more dangerous than Halloween, and Halloween just getting the short end of the stick because it's creepy. So, of course, it's more dangerous. So where I fall on trunk or treat now as an evolved person of 2021, with all of you behind me, educating me and giving me ideas, the ways to think about things I've never thought about them before. Here's where I stand. I think anyone who is doing trunk or treat because it's like a safety concern should be challenged on that. I think anyone who is doing trunk or treat because it gives them access to trick or treating in a way they couldn't do it otherwise should be celebrated. So, like many things in life, there is no black or white answer. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it sucks, and it's up to all of us to try to make Halloween accessible to everyone. Trunk or treat does seem to do that in some ways, but let's also, honor trick or treat and make sure that that tradition, which is so fun and so meaningful, I think, to American culture, let's keep it going and make sure that it is safe and fun for kids. And you know what? I've said it before, I'm saying it again. I think adults should get to go trick-or-treating if they want to. If you want to stay home and do candy, sure. But I think there is way too much stigma around the age of a person who goes out trick-or-treating. Okay, that is my final thoughts on that. I would love to hear what you think about, caller. Thank you for giving us a holler, and welcome to the Halloween Club. All right, up next, we have another call, and this one is an urban legend.
Hello, it's Nick again. I realize this is a few weeks late, but, it's a busy time of year. That's a bad excuse because of COVID, but still. I wanted to respond to Pete's tale of the ghost that he can go see, and when he sits on the train tracks, and then children will come push your car forward. I'm from southern New Jersey originally, and we also have a ghost of that same kind of park your car somewhere and a child ghost will come appear to you. It's called the Atco ghost because it happens in Atco, New Jersey. And what you do, so there's this road called Burnt Mill Road, which I'm guessing is named that because a mill burnt down on that road. You go down this road. So legend has it that someone was like speeding down the road. Basically, this road ends at like the back end of a state park. So it just dead ends into this complete forest and wilderness. And legend has it that somebody drove all the way down to the end of the road and then U-turned. And when they U-turned, they went to speed back out and did not see that a child was then running out into the middle of the road to grab a basketball that had gotten out of his grasp and was bouncing across the road. And the motorist hit the child and the child died. So now legend has it that if you go down Burnt Mill Road at midnight and you go all the way down to the end where it hits just that wall of trees and darkness and Papa Yui, and then you sit there at the very end of the road, you honk your horn 3 times, you flash your lights 3 times, and then you turn your car off and you sit there in darkness. And the ghost of a child dribbling a basketball will walk across the street in front of your car. When I was in college, my boyfriend at the time and I decided to go test the legends. So we drove down to the end of Burnt Mill Road. We popped the Yui and we flashed the lights 3 times. We honked the horn 3 times. As soon as my boyfriend was done honking the horn 3 times, a cat jumped up on top of the hood of his Jeep and scared the bejesus out of us. And he didn't even get a chance to turn the car off so we could wait for the ghost. He just floored it and we just sped screaming down the street back out onto Route 30. And I don't know if the ghost ever came to greet us or not because we got so scared and we ran out of there. But it's a very famous, probably one of the most famous ghosts in New Jersey. So maybe if anybody else has managed to see it, if they want to call in and tell us about it, that's our resident park your car somewhere and a child will come greet you ghost. Also, I had an idea for what fans of the podcast should call ourselves. What about the Hallow Team? Yay! Go team, go! Love the podcast, love you, it's dope. Have a spooky creepness and a ghoulish New Year.
Nick, what a fantastic urban legend. I am obsessed with the fact that it seems like every town has a story where a ghost child is going to come handprint your car or push you over tracks or get involved with you in some way. I wonder if this is just because kids are inherently creepy, or ghost kids, I should say, are inherently creepy. No offense to my younger audience. I love you. I value you. But ghosts of you are very upsetting. I'm sure you can understand that. So I would love to, like Nick said, hear from anyone else who has a category of a ghost will come and touch your car, urban legend from their hometown or college town or wherever you've lived. And if you have any idea of like the origins of this trope, I did a little digging for it, but it was kind of hard on the internet. I just kept coming up with more stories like that instead of like, where did this come from? Why does this happen? So I'll keep going. I'll see if I could do a little more reading on it, but keep the calls coming. I would love to hear more. I think it is so funny that a cat ended up scaring you, especially because I know Nick, that you love cats, and they are a symbol of Halloween as well, though. They have some spooky qualities to them. A connection to a parallel universe, perhaps, like in Coraline. I love Hallow Team. I think that's so fun. And listen, we have not officially settled on a name yet, but I did run an informal poll on Instagram, and I wanted to go over that with you guys. So Hallow Team is very fun, and I should throw that one up for everyone to vote on. So far, we had Halloweens, which I really liked. It got a 69% yes, 31% no. Pumpkinheads, 53% yes, 47% no. So it's a little more even. So Halloween still in the lead. Then we get trick-or-treaters. That was a 71% yes, 29% no. So trick-or-treaters is taking over. People like that one the best. Hallowinner, which I really liked a lot and thought was really funny. You guys were mixed. 52% yes, 48% no. Samhainites, 32% yes, 68% no. Halloweenies, which I also thought was cute, 65% yes, 35% no. And then the winner, knocking trick-or-treaters out of the way, was Ghouligans at 92% yes and 8% no, which is a landslide vote. I love Ghouligans. I love a portmanteau. I love a little wordplay. And I was ready to bulldoze forward with that. And then a couple people brought it to my attention that there is a media conglomerate by the name of BuzzFeed. I don't know if you've ever heard of them before. I have not. I'm very underground in that way. So BuzzFeed has a channel or something called BuzzFeed Unsolved that is about true crime and general creepiness, which is like, okay, I guess you get to own that entire corner of the internet because you're BuzzFeed. But they evidently call their supporters Ghouligans. I have never heard of Unsolved before. I am fine going through with this, and you know, you guys also being called Ghouligans. It is a pretty common bit of wordplay. It's not like murderinos or anything that's like quite so much of a movement. So I would love to hear your thoughts on that. And of course, any other ideas, keep them coming. I'm going to experiment with them. But Hallow Team is really cute. And I just imagine myself gathering y'all up in a field and handing out little trick-or-treat bags and telling you to be safe out there and complimenting all your costumes. And we all do the hands in the middle right before trick-or-treating. We're like, Hallow Team! And we all scatter and go get candy. So it's a good one, Nick. Thank you. All right. Up next, we have another EEEEKmail, this one from Madeline. And the subject line is spooky stories. Hey, Luce, I have a couple of spooky stories to share. I come from a long line of witches, like actual witches, and I inherited a set of tarot cards from my great-grandmother who was psychic and could read them in great detail. One day, while reading the cards, she drifted off into a daze and discovered that she was reincarnated from a Silk Road trader. The thought and vision scared her, and she never touched the cards again. When I got the cards, they had a ton of negative energy circling them, so they had to be cleansed. I then made a case for them out of cardboard with cleansing crystals like quartz. There, they lie by my bedside table, but the top card changes every night to predict the next day's fortune. Okay, moving on to my second story. My mother is from Salem, Massachusetts, and can feel and see ghosts. There is one story in particular that whenever we go camping, I ask for her to tell me. My parents were staying in a hotel off the coast of Wales that used to be a hospital. Many people died there, and their graves were in a local cemetery. My mom kept telling my dad there was something wrong with the place, but he didn't listen. One night, my mom woke up in a sweat after a dream where a doctor would abuse the women and then kill them with overdoses. She could hear the man's thoughts and feel his feelings. Ugh. After waking up, she tried to convince my dad again that they had to leave, but he refused. The next night, they both woke up to a woman over their bed floating and hovering. My dad still doesn't believe that it really happened. He said it was just air pressure. Wowzers. Okay. Finally, I'm not doing these two stories justice. I had to summarize them, but I love the show and I hope you keep going on forever. I also have a thought on what to call us listeners, eerie elves. It's not half as good as anything else, but it's a thought. Sorry this was so long and I hope I make it on the podcast. Madeline. Madeline. I'm so sorry. I hope one of those is correct. It was not too long. No need for you to apologize. I think Eerie Elves is very cute and another one to vote on. So keep the names coming unless everybody is like, no, Ghouligans for life. Screw BuzzFeed Unsolved. Whoever they are. They've got the money, but we've got the power. All right, anyways, this is how I start a new fight with a giant media conglomerate. So, Madeline or Madeline, thank you so much for these stories. I love that witchcraft and spookiness runs in your family. And that's so cool that you have your grandmother's tarot cards. How special. And I'm really interested in the negative energy, like how you know, I guess I know when I walk into a room if there's negative energy, but I don't know if I can tell about energy from inanimate objects. So I'm curious about that for those of you who are more tuned in to the other planes. And it's great grandmother. I'm sorry, not grandmother. And I think that is like the scariest thing ever, to wake up to a ghost, and I never want to. I hope it doesn't happen. I'm putting that out there just in case the spirit world listens to the podcast. You can leave me out of any hauntings. I don't need them. I love to talk about them, but I don't need to actually see it. I'm afraid that it would scare me much, much too much. Thanks again for the EEEEKmail, and let's move on to our next caller. Who's ready for another creepy Halloween recipe?
Hey, Luce, it's Kelly again. I was so excited to hear my call on the podcast. Thanks so much for airing it. I wanted to give a call back inspired by your discussion of novelty food items for Halloween. And I wanted to talk about one of my favorite things to make every time I have a Halloween party. It's usually one of the main centerpieces of all the different food items on the spread. And it's a human torso appetizer platter. I cannot take credit for the idea. I found it on Pinterest many years ago, and I can share that with you on the Instagram page. But it looks really cool. And the bottom layer, the skin, if you will, is puff pastry, and then a layer of smoked salmon for the muscle or the flesh, and then lungs and stomach with hummus or cheese ball dip, a little liver pate for the liver, some sliced salami for the large intestine, a little cornichon gallbladder, a carved beet for the heart. It's really great. So I'll definitely share the picture with you. It's always a big hit. It's delicious. And I've definitely found ways to vary some of the ingredients over the years for more vegan or vegetarian audiences. But yeah, so I hope that you enjoy it and try it out. Have a great spooky day. Bye.
Kelly, what a delicious and terrifying idea. I absolutely love it. I've never made anything like that before, but I think I have seen some of those pictures on Pinterest as well. I really appreciate that you took the time to mention that it can be made vegan or vegetarian. I do think that this may be the only vegan Halloween podcast. because we have several. I had no idea there was such an overlap between vegans and Halloweens, but there is, and I love it. And we're always looking, up ways to make these recipes vegan. And I know the Spooky Vegan on Instagram, she has a blog as well, is always posting really cool recipes and treats for all of the goths who love animals out there. So I would love to check out a variation of those and see those pictures so we can put them up on our Instagram as well. Keep the Halloween recipes coming. I am going to hit my goal this year of doing at least one Halloween snack or treat a month. So who's on board with me? Who wants to be a part of the cooking club? Holler at me. Wail at me. Give me a banshee scream. Okay, well, we have one more call left, and it's from a new listener. So welcome. Take it away.
Oh my God. Lucy, what can I even say? My name is Meg. I know that some other people have said this before, but I will say it again. Your podcast truly is giving me life. It has always been Halloween in my mind. I've been obsessed with Halloween since I was wicked little. I am a physical therapist now based out of Boston, and I use my love of physical therapy and knowledge of anatomy to justify having skeletons all over my home all year round. But it's also because I'm obsessed with Halloween and I choose to live my life that way. And it's a beautiful thing. So I cannot tell you how much I have enjoyed listening to all these episodes. All the history stuff has totally fueled my soul, and what a cool community. I also became your lucky 13th Patreon supporter yesterday, which I thought was an incredible positive omen from the universe and was absolutely loving it. I'm sure I will call in again. I will engage with every single social media and thing that I possibly can. Love you to death as a human being who just seems phenomenal and as a Halloween head. But I do have a question for you. I was raised Catholic. I now consider myself a very spiritual human being who just tries to live as a good person. I've always been really interested in Dia de los Muertos. I am a proficient Spanish speaker. I delved into that culture a little bit through school and learned about it through you. Always been obsessed with it and wanting to kind of celebrate it myself. I have some family members. I relate to you on the grandmother thing, a grandmother who I love and miss every single day. Would love to honor her and celebrate this spooky holiday, but I kind of, I would love your advice on how to move forward and do that in a way that's fun and amazing for me and appreciative of that culture without being, disrespectful as if I'm, a poser in some way or, walking on some weird lines with appropriation and all that stuff, and if you love it, I always believe that if you go into it with a good heart, you're good to go, but would love your advice because you are the spooky queen. So thank you so much. Again, absolutely obsessed. Thank you for all that you do. Bye.
Maggie, you are a hoot and a half. Thank you for that lovely call and all of your effusive joy. It means so much to me that you're getting a lot out of the podcast, and it sounds like we would really hit it off. I also have skeletons year-round in my apartment. However, I am very squishy about insides. I did not make it through my 7th grade health class or any class that ever talk about broken bones. So you took it this step further. I love that you basically say that you got a job so you could display skeletons around your house all the time. Of course, I'm sure you got that job for other reasons, but just the idea that somebody interested in Halloween is looking for Halloween like type jobs or jobs that could help facilitate Halloween decorations as like work decorations. I'm thinking probably people in the death arts are very similar, but I would love to hear from other listeners who use their jobs, the tools of their trade, to actually push out their Halloween agenda even more. So that was just so cute, so fun. Thank you for sharing that with me. And thank you for becoming a new patron. I think that Lucky 13, that's incredible that you're the 13th patron. A thing you didn't mention is that with your subscription, it took us up to $113 a month on the Patreon. So you did 13 twice, which has got to mean the most luck in the world. So go play lotto numbers and maybe split some of it with me. Anyways, thank you so much for joining the Patreon. If anyone else wants to subscribe, it's patreon.com/itsalwayshalloween. And then finally, to get into your last question about appropriation. We've talked about this on a couple of past episodes. It is something that's very important to me and should be important to all white celebrators of Halloween, that people's lifestyles and cultures and backgrounds are not costumes. There are really respectful ways to engage in other cultures' traditions without taking them over ourselves. I'm sorry. I'm a little distracted right now. I'm actually getting another call. Let me see if we could just take this call real quick.
Lucy, again, what can I say? You kill me every time. To my delight, by the way, this is Meg from Boston again, the physical therapist, and your still super enthused 13th Patreon supporter. How enthused was I to realize that I had not actually listened to every single episode in your podcast. I thought I had binged the whole darn thing, and here I am on my second listen all the way through, and I get to the Frankenstein's Monster episode, which perfectly answered my question about Dia de los Muertos and cultural appropriation and how to celebrate whilst, as a white woman myself, not disrespecting this awesome cultural practice. So I really commend your listener who had that beautiful experience for calling in. That was awesome. Question totally answered. And kudos to you for owning up to the Frankenstein's Monster comment. I also am a huge fan of Bram Stoker's Dracula, as well as Mary Shelley, aka the badass of her century, Frankenstein. And I am also passionate about this poor Frankenstein's monster who is absolutely getting, no credit out there for what he actually is. They should have given him a name. They should have given him a name. But anyway, good for you, Lucy. Absolutely adore you and the podcast. Thank you for everything you do. Bye.
Wow, what's the timing on that? Meg, you just caught me. For listeners who haven't heard the episodes we have one on costume appropriation, Dia de los Muertos, and the one that Meg mentioned here, Frankenstein's Monster, which you guys, you're going to get a call from my mom soon. Not you specifically, Meg, but in general, I think my mom's going to call the podcast soon. She is a retired English teacher whose Frankenstein is her all-time favorite book. She's getting a little hot under the collar, getting a little peeved, because she loves Frankenstein so much, the book, and she has a huge issue with calling it Frankenstein's Monster. We've had many discussions about this, my mom and I, since that episode aired, and she doesn't even think it should be called Frankenstein's Monster. She thinks it should be called The Creature. Monster has a negative connotation, so I believe my mother will be calling in at some point to explain to everybody why calling it Frankenstein's Creature is more thoughtful, more loving, a gentler way to acknowledge his role in the story. He's not the monster. Frankenstein is actually the monster. The doctor's the monster. Anyways, you guys know the story. Meg, thank you so much for calling in twice. I love that you found an episode you didn't know you hadn't listened to, and it answered your question. And for all other listeners who haven't gotten there yet, basically support the people of color whose cultural traditions you want to engage in, read about it from them, listen to them, go to events that they hold, buy, costumes, souvenirs, whatever it is from, people of color, from the artists whose culture it is. Don't go to white people's Dia de los Muertos. And if you see white people acting like fools or acting racist at these cultural events, step up, call them out. That is on us as white people to take care of our team, of our Hallow team. Okay, we gotta look out for each other. I love you all. I missed you over the holidays, and I appreciate all of the calls that I got. There were so many that I had to save some of them for next week. So if you haven't heard your call or your EEEEKmail yet, don't worry, it's in the lineup. And I want to encourage everybody who hasn't called in or written in yet to please share your stories, your memories, your questions. We are here for you. And the new history episodes are going to start coming out again. So next Tuesday, we'll dive back into skeletons. We're going to be picking up with the Black Plague, which is unfortunately very timely, even though it's about the Middle Ages. If you have any questions, having to do with skeletons or the Grim Reaper or the Black Death, anything like that, you can call in with those as well. The All Hallows Hotline is 802-532-DEAD. Or if you'd prefer to write an EEEEKmail, the address is itsalwayshalloweenpodcast @gmail.com. You can also reach out on Instagram at itsalwayshalloweenpodcast. There you'll find ongoing pictures and recommendations, and I love interacting with everybody there. So come join us, come say hi. You can also find us on Patreon, as Meg Lucky 13 was so lovely to point out. Again, it's patreon.com/itsalwayshalloween. There's many different tiers that you can support on, starting at $3, going all the way up to $16, and lots of extras there. We have a few ghost stories up there, and we do our bi-monthly movie nights and discussions. I want to tell you about January's are actually going to be coming up. The first January movie night is going to be this Sunday, January 10th, starting at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. If you're not a Patreon member yet, if you sign up for the $10 or $16 level, you get to join the bi-monthly movie parties and discussions where I live stream a movie for everyone and we talk about it and its role in Halloween history and spooky culture. And then I throw movie facts at you like pop-up video throughout the entire screening. And as a little New Year bonus right now, to wish Happy New Year to everybody, anyone who's signed up on Patreon at any level, $3 or above, I'm welcoming you to partake in the live stream this Sunday, just so that we can all, get to know each other, enjoy some time together. And I think it'll be really fun to get some new voices in there. And then the second live stream this month will be on January 24th. So if you sign up before 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Sunday, then you can join us for the Sunday night movie night. And we are still deciding on the movies. We're deciding between a few wintry ones, Misery and The Thing, and then a few skeleton-y ones like The Mask of the Red Death, The Corpse Bride, and Frighteners. So I have it up on the Patreon for people to vote for the movies they want to see. And I look forward to talking about them with you this weekend. All right. Well, I just want to run through all the new patrons, give you a little shout out. So thank you, Meg McPhee, Mindy Rice, Jennifer Gibson, Sarah Brown, and Kelly Matz. Kelly Matthez. please let me know how to say her name. I hate saying people's names wrong. It makes me feel like a dum-dum and also like I'm being disrespectful. And I don't want to be disrespectful because I respect you very much. So thank you again to all the patrons. Like I was saying before, we're up to $113 a month, which is incredible and made me burst into tears earlier. You guys are funding 3 Small Frights episodes a month, almost 4, which is incredible. A whole month full of Small Frights. It's huge. It's so huge. And I am so grateful to you. Because of your support, we can keep this podcast independent and free from advertising, which is really exciting. If you want to show your support for It's Always Halloween in a different way, we do have a Redbubble shop now where you can get podcast merch. Only a couple designs up there right now, but I have plans to fill it with more. So you can find the link for that in the show notes or go on to redbubble.com and search It's Always Halloween Podcast. You can also find a link in our Instagram link tree as well. This episode of It's Always Halloween was co-researched by me and the incredible listeners that you heard from today. I also wrote and performed in this episode. The editing, theme music, and sound design is by the wonderful Pete Burns. Thanks, Pete. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at LTB Comedy and Pete at Mittenberries. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, please subscribe and write us a little review so that other like-minded ghouls can find us. We're also on the NPR One app, so subscribe to us there and tell Ira Glass how much you adore us. Thank you so much for listening to It's Always Halloween. And come back next time, unless you get pulled into a trunk at a rogue trunk or treat event. Ah!